Okay, so that's kind of my background for you who don't know about me. So I have been a jeweler for almost the same time I have been an astrologer. So I started to jewelry and astrology when I was 21. And my jewelry work made me interested in the healing aspects of gemstones and amulets and talismans and all that. So then I started to study symbolism, and that brought me directly to astrology, because astrology is the oldest system where we work with symbols, with archetypal symbols. So the style of astrology I'm doing, it's called evolutionary astrology, and that kind of works with a karmic perspective. So there are ways and techniques we can use and look into what kind of themes do you bring with you into this lifetime? Where are your challenges? And we can read a chart in the psychodynamic levels, and it's very impressive to do that, and people feel seen and reflected in their potentials and what they do and who they are and how they experience themselves. But when you look from an evolutionary perspective, it's really about what does your soul needs to do to grow. What is a real issue for you in this lifetime? What is your real goal? And you can pretty much bet the house on that, where you have your strongest challenges in this life, that this is very closely connected with your past life and what you left unfinished there. So, for me, I've been doing astrology for 33 years, and adding the evolutionary perspective to it has been really exciting for me, because it's really kindled my own passion for astrology all new. So I might add that perspective when we are really talking astrology. Also, I have written a book. This is my book, Jewelry and Gems for Self-Discovery, where I bridge these two worlds I have been working with all my life. The jewelry, the healing gemstones, and the astrology. So this is kind of the result of all those years of working and combining those subjects. And when I was doing a lot of jewelry, I was doing mainly custom work for people. So I would do a personal astrological reading for somebody. Then I would point out the healing gemstones, and then I would do a design together with that person. And the result of that I call soul jewelry, because it's really jewelry which is not just only beautiful and enhancing your beauty, but it's really supporting your soul. It's made of what I call your true birthstones. And we have just talked about that before you guys came, that I believe we all have 12 birthstones, which are relating to the different planets and ascendant we have in the chart. So you have more than the one you think you have. Okay, so you can have a look at the book. There's somewhere there. Okay, so these astrological weather reports, as I call them, I do them once a month. And today, because we did one last month, I want to do a little overview backwards. So we're going to look at the chart we have discussed last month, when we really didn't know the forms it would take, but we have been discussing the quality, what was expected from us to learn about. And looking backwards over the last months, it's kind of really impressive to see how the astrological symbolism is really setting the tone and reflecting back to us what's happening. And astrology is really a way to sharpen our awareness of who we are in the dance, in the cosmic universal dance. So we're going to do this overview backwards. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the Mayan calendar because it falls together with the new moon, which was last night. But last night I had something going on here, so that's why I'm doing it 1 day late. Then we're going to look into the chart for the coming months, and the idea about that is to get prepared. So more we know what are the archetypes, what are the universal energies and forces in the coming months, the more we have a choice about it, the more we can get prepared. And at the end of the talk I'm going to get very specific about how you can use the energetic flow of these months personally. What is very supported universally for you to do this month, and this will be different every month. So actually you have part of that in the handout as a reminder. So don't look at it now, but you take it home.
Alright.
We're going to talk about the new moon in Scorpio. And then we're going to make it a little more personal. I'm going to go through all the 12 signs and the relevance of the new moon and the 3 other planets in Scorpio. And what does that mean for you? Like, what's your sun sign? Aries. So we're going to start with Aries, beginning of the zodiac. And we're going to see where in relation to Aries this new moon is going to happen. So the new moon is always a conjunction between sun and moon. That's what we call a new moon. So then the new moon falls out and goes into the 28-day cycle. So you're going to get a little very personal attunement with that. And we're going to talk about which 4 planets are in Scorpio and what that means. And we're going to end with a little meditation, which is meant as a support for you to really internally focus and set your personal intentions for the month. And I call that riding the wave. So what we do intentionally, we kind of set ourselves up to move in a very specific direction. I love this picture. It's really like very Hawaiian. And it's what we are all called to do these days. I mean, we're all kind of, we only have the choice to ride the wave or to be swallowed. There's a lot going on in the stars these days. And God help us to ride the wave. And my intention is to help you, to give you some key, some conscious choices. Okay, when we talk about moon and sun, we talk really about the archetypes of yin and yang. So yin is the feminine, the emotional consciousness. Moon is often associated with the mother, the nurturing principle. And sun is associated with the father, the general consciousness, awareness we have. And the interesting thing is that from our perspective here from the Earth, is that the size of the sun is exactly the size of the moon. That's why we can have eclipses. And that's kind of giving us really the visual that they are both of the same importance for us. I mean, all the other stars, they're kind of further away and we're not even able to see all of them with our naked eyes. But sun and moon are really right there in our consciousness. So the yin and yang, our awareness, our highest consciousness and our emotional consciousness. So if you know the sun and the moon of somebody, you already really know a lot about what's running that person, what's important for that person, what's that person identified with. full moon. The full moon, a lot of people are very aware of that the full moon really does have an impact. You know, I mean, people have trouble sleeping at night, the cats are out, don't want to come in, people go out and get drunk, and I mean, there's really something going on with the full moon, so it's kind of really out there, not just in the heavens, so we can really feel it. So I'm doing these talks on the new moon, because for me the new moon is almost more important than the full moon, because it's the start of moon circle. So each new moon starts in a different sign. And then when it's in the full moon position, it's kind of the highest awareness of where we are in that emotional journey. So looking at the moon throughout the month really gives us an emotional awareness of where we are and how we emotionally deal with the world and with things coming into our field. So, the moon. The moon is known as a great mother, and I like to look at it as our emotional filter to the world. So wherever your moon is in your chart, it tells me a lot about what your inner needs are, but also how you perceive the world emotionally. So if you have close friends, or if you're in an intimate relationship, to know the moon position of your partner will really help you a lot to understand that person. Because the moon position in the chart really gives you what we call the driving need. Driving need is really something you need to have to feel safe, to feel nourished, and to feel happy. So the moon position in your chart has a lot to do with your happiness, your ability to experience joy. We could also call the moon position in your chart is kind of representing your heart or your soul, which is kind of pointing towards that dimension. We really don't have so much conscious understanding. It's kind of more a mysterious dimension inside of us. What is our heart? What is our soul? It connects us with something which is mysterious, which is a little bit hidden, secretive. And because of that, we call it the subconsciousness. And Carl Jung, we say Jung. Carl Jung was the one who coined the word subconsciousness, and that is the realm of the moon. And because there is this distinction between our conscious mind and our subconsciousness, the subconsciousness also is the fountain of our creativity. It's an area where we have just this inner guidance, this connection to other dimensions, also to other people. So moon is very empathic, very compassionate. This is the area where we connect from intuitively. So when we have artistic potential, we usually have a strong moon, like a moon in Cancer or Pisces. So there is an openness to those dimensions. And the moon can point towards our potential as a healer or a shepherd. So when we are people who have any kind of caretaking professions, we usually have a strong moon in the chart. So we know how to nourish, we know how to contact that inner field. So this month, the new moon, so the moon position, where the moon position is starting from, for all of us, is in Scorpio. So even if we all have the moon in a different position in our personal chart, we're all impacted to where the moon is in general. And depending where your moon is in your personal chart, you might get specifically triggered or stimulated, or aspect of your chart might be activated. Like for you two, you had birthday, you had it exactly on the new moon, you're still close. So that means your sun and the new moon in Scorpio are in conjunction. So something very strong is in alignment there. So for you, it's not only that this month you're going to be in that energy. For you, it's really your whole year till your next birthday. You're going to be in that energy flow. And we're going to
great to me.
We're going to discuss that from different angles all evening.
I can dig out some energy from my way.
Okay, also the new moon yesterday is coinciding with October 11th to 26th, this 15 days of time frame, where we have been talking about the end of the Mayan calendar. You probably have heard kind of something about the ending of the world and the new consciousness rising. So this is actually not happening in 2012. People have begun talking about that this is actually the time when it's happening. And astrologically it really works for me because there's so much happening in general in the stars in the moment that it makes a lot of sense that this change and this transition into a new level of consciousness is happening right now. And I would pretty much bet that you two have signed up to take on some kind of a role in that, because your birthday was exactly there. So it's going to be interesting to see. Also, this new moon is what we call a supermoon. It's the fifth in a series. No, it's not here. Okay. The supermoon is the fifth in a series of 6 this year. And the supermoon is when the moon is closest to the earth. So, like from where that is happening, when it's so close to the earth, it's called supermoon because it really puts on the plates and on the gravitational field on the earth and the plates. So, for example, when we had the earthquake in Japan in March, it was, first of all, it was the first day when Uranus went into Aries, so that was kind of really big bang start off of that new energy. But it was also a supermoon. And people in the astrological community were discussing the fact that that might have had a lot to do because it was pulling on the plates, and that stimulates earthquakes and volcano eruptions and all that. So probably it was those two aspects coming together.
How do you know when it's a supermoon?
It's, they say when it's 90% out of 100 closest to the Earth. So 100% would be the closest it can get to the Earth. So 90% is a supermoon. 100% would they would call an extreme supermoon. So it just means from the possibility of closeness to the Earth. So supermoon
How do
definitely
you know?
pulls.
You have to look at an astrological chart to know that, or how can you do that?
Well, these are I don't think you find it in the ephemeris. It's more like an astronomical objective fact.
You said it was the fifth
So you can
Wednesday.
Google it, you will get the information. You can Google it,
Google it,
and
okay.
you will get the information. So it's
Supermoon
more
or
an astronomical
something?
fact.
More scientific, right?
Astronomical effect.
Astronomic effect, put that in your Google.
Mhm.
You know.
So if you want to know what supermoon is, just look
Okay.
at it.
You said it was the fifth in the series of 6
The fifth in a series of 6 this
for
year.
this year.
Mhm. So there's one more coming.
Oh, good to know.
Okay, so this was a chart from last month. So we had actually a big night here. We had lots of people here. And we were looking at this chart. So a chart is always, a new moon chart is always made when the moon and sun position is exact. So this is when the new moon is exact. So you see 4 degrees. And last month it was in Libra, but we also had Mercury, Venus, and Saturn in Libra. So we had 5 planets in Libra. And we had Cancer rising. Cancer is ruled by the moon. So it was really kind of an attunement to the inner world, to our emotions with the Cancer rising. And the moon is ruling the ascendant. So the moon is in Libra, but in the 3rd house. And then we have been discussing how this was all activated by this red, what we call the T-square. And this is Pluto, and this is Uranus. And these are the 2 players which are giving us such a hard time lately. Pluto is the god of of the underworld, of the hell realms, of death and transformation. So that Pluto is squaring our new moon here, our heart and soul moon. And because it's a new moon which is going to move out here, this energy is really kind of starting off the last month. Uranus. Uranus is the god of earthquakes, eruptions, sudden changes, lightning bolts. So imagine the god of the underworld and the god of lightning bolts. They're squaring each other. So there's a lot of energy in there, and this is what's happening when we look in the world. So all these energy were pushing on their new moon last month. And around that time, I don't know exactly the day, but was when the occupation Wall Street started. Kicked off by Pluto and Uranus, kicked off by 5 planets in the 3rd house. The 3rd house is the area where we communicate, where we make our voice heard, where we speak up, where we find our voice. And it was all in Libra, so it was really peaceful. People were peaceful. They spoke up, they expressed their concerns. And when you have been following the media was kind of condemning the people because they didn't have specific demands. But that's just not where it was. It was just like finding their voice, expressing their feelings, Cancer. So this was the kickstart and the beginning till the next new moon, which we have right now. So what we're looking at here is really the chart of the beginning of Occupy Wall Street, which has become a movement all around the world. It's not just in America, it's everywhere. So this is, I think, a fabulous example to really see how the stars are reflecting what's happening inside of us. Then, if I would have your chart and would put it on here and see where are all these planets in your chart, what gets activated, then it would get really interesting. And then you would really know why you're facing in your life what you're facing. Like you two, your sun is beginning of Scorpio. That's Scorpio. So your sun is here. So you have not a direct connection either with Pluto nor with Uranus, but you will have a connection with Neptune because Neptune is ready to enter Pisces and will have a trine to your sun. So when you see where the transits are in your personal chart, then you can see what's activated for you. And in the moment when I'm giving readings to people, they're either activated with Pluto or Uranus or Neptune, otherwise they don't come to me. There's always something going on in your chart where you feel challenged when you go to an astrologer to get deeper insights. And for you guys, I can already say Neptune energy. So Neptune brings in the energy of spirituality, of empathy, of really connecting deep down and being a spiritual medium, healer, somebody who brings higher consciousness to the world. Okay, so let's see what's going on for this month. But what I wanted to point out here is really that it was so peacefully in its orientation because of 5 planets in Libra. Cancer rising is very feely, very emotional, very gentle. And all the Libra planets were very gentle. That's in the 3rd house, so it was really about finding the voice. And another level of Cancer rising is really the people rising. So it really comes from that deep inner level. Okay, so energy is changing. This month we have the Sun in Scorpio and the new moon in Scorpio. Very different energy than Libra. You guys probably know a lot about Scorpio energy.
Feeling better now, aren't you?
Yeah. So what else?
Okay, this explains it.
Yes. So who else we have here? What's your star sign? You said Aries. Okay, so you have Uranus energy. What's your star sign?
Libra.
Libra. Okay. Saturn in Libra. So that's what you have to do with.
Pisces.
Pisces. Okay. Neptune. Okay. What's your
Leo.
Leo? Oh, Leo. Good. And you? Scorpio. Okay, so we have 3 Scorpio here. Okay, good. So, new moon in Scorpio will impact us all, no matter where we have our moon in our chart. But if we have planets in Scorpio, it will kind of strengthen them. It will strengthen the Sun, it will strengthen if there's a Mercury there, or whatever planet. So, in general, we can say the mood will be more edgy. Everybody will be more moody, there will be more intensity in the air. And on one hand, people will be more focused inwards, but then there will be the tendency to erupt. So, if we look at that, projected back on what's happening on the streets, it's going to really step up. It's going to be much more intense, what we're facing. So we can say that with the new moon in Scorpio, all of us, we have to look at deeper levels, deeper layers of our inner reality. And that means that unconscious material will be coming up for us all, not just for Scorpios. There will be a mentality more stronger in the foreground, which is kind of all or nothing. So Scorpio is not a sign which is really well known for compromises. So it's really like black or white, there's not much in between. So
Totality.
yeah. So also with the new moon in Scorpio, we will be having a potential of healing. Whenever we are faced with unconscious material, with deep inner layers of things we haven't been aware of, with that, there's a potential for healing. There's a potential of integration. And actually, Scorpios who have been living with that kind of energy all their life, they might be the ones who help us through this month and with that more edgy energy, because you guys have more experience with it. You kind of know how to ride that specific Scorpio wave. So potential of healing. And what I always like as an archetype for Scorpio is the picture of the phoenix out of ashes. So the phoenix is the story of the old eagle who throws himself into the fire and the young bird coming out of the flames. I just love that picture. And I mean, we all, not you, but we all have enough life experience and we have gone through enough of those processes, so we know that whenever we have kind of bottomed out and gone through very intense processes in our life, that at the end there has been some deepening and some renewal and something new has been born on because of that. And sometimes we can truly say that those hard times have been the best of our life. Because where it brought us to, it has been all worth it. But this we can only say looking backwards. When you're in the midst of it, you just want it to be over. Okay, let's inquire a little bit more about the moon in Scorpio. So the sign of the Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. I introduced Pluto as a god of nightmares, of death, and the hell realm. So it kind of, because of that, is really carrying this intensity. It's a water sign. So therefore, it's very connected with a way of connecting through our emotions. So because of that, Scorpio people are usually very complex people. They have what we would call a dark side. It's not like anybody else doesn't have a dark side, but with Scorpios it's just more obvious. And they know more about their own dark side than other signs usually do. So Scorpios are very complex, and they usually go in their lives through very deep processes where parts of them has to go, has to die, so something new can come out of that. And because of that, they can become guides for other people.
You're right.
And Scorpios usually are very interested in what is hidden, what is secret, what is unconscious. And because of that, they are often very interested in psychology. They make fantastic psychologists, psychotherapists, but they also have a quality we would call the shaman. And what does a shaman do? I mean, a shaman is kind of a wise woman or a wise man in a more natural culture. And shaman, we talk about soul retrieval. We talk about going into the unknown, the deeper inner worlds. And we bring something into the light out of that hidden layers. And this is what is healing. This is the healing quality. it's a very powerful sign. And the flip side of power is dictatorship. And that's why with all this Pluto, Uranus squaring off in the heavens, what we all have these days, that's why there's so much revolution and violence in the streets because of that dark side. Let's start somewhere else. Pluto is ruling Scorpio, and Pluto has gone into Capricorn. Capricorn is symbolizing rules and orders and governments and structures and dictatorships, abuse of power. So with Uranus squaring that energy, it kind of all boils up. It kind of threatens the status quo. And what's hopefully coming out of that is the healing. And we all agree on how our society is functioning these days. It's not working. So, but we haven't agreed yet upon what we need to do to fix it. So all we can do at the moment is hang in there and try to integrate those energies personally into our personal life. Okay, so there's intensity, there's charisma, there are insights, edgy insights, deep insights coming out of those deep truths which suddenly become obvious. So there will be a lot of uncovering of things we haven't been willing or able to see or look upon. So that's kind of what's really going to happen this month. And a high level of Scorpio energy is really honesty and truth. So that's what Scorpio energy really wants to do, is to be confronting what's there, what's real. Meaningful exchange of psychic energy. This is what's important in the way of relationships, relating with each other. So that's what's going to become very important for all of us this month, is to find that level of meaningful interaction and exchange with each other. And really expressing our truth, really trying to find that deep level of communication with each other. And of course the Scorpions are well equipped for that. We all others, we have to kind of try to catch up with that. Transformation. That's kind of the big word for Scorpio energy. That's what Scorpio energy pushes us into transformation. And I think that's a good thing. So, Moon in Scorpio, again, powerful and charismatic. So, Scorpios are very strong, they're powerful, they have charisma. If a Scorpio enters a room, you will be aware of that person. And I'm not only talking about when the sun is in Scorpio, I'm talking when the moon is in Scorpio, if you have Scorpio rising, or more than 1 or 2 planets in Scorpio. This will be an energy which is with you. We already talked about that they're interested in the deeper psychic dimensions. They're interested in intense, deep experience. There's a sense of drama there. They make excellent detectives, psychologists, but also scientists. Because to be a real, truly successful scientist, you really have to have this kind of willingness and interest to go into deeper and deeper layers. They're also very good with other people because they're very intuitive. They know how to read people. So when Scorpios are working with other people, like as psychotherapists or in that field with people, they're usually really very intuitive and tuned in, and they just have good skills with reading people and situations. And Scorpios are very determined and focused. So if a Scorpio has a goal in mind, they're like a terrier, they won't let go, kind of. And they will hold on till they manage to get somewhere. And of course, to every sign there are challenges and weaknesses. And for the Scorpio, this would be the loss of perspective, which comes when you kind of hold on to black or white, to one part of the picture very strongly. You lose the overview, you lose perspective. So it's kind of the pendulum. If the pendulum goes all the way to one side, when it's at the end, then it can swing back to the other side. But when you're in that one corner, there's not much of an overview there. A potential of abuse of power, destructive energy. That's what we see, like in the Far Eastern countries. There's a lot of dictatorships, abuse of power. It's a very Scorpion energy. And that's why a lot of the revolution which is happening in those countries is so violent. There is the tail of the Scorpio. So when Scorpio is pushed or challenged, the tail comes out, and it's very poisonous. So if you make a Scorpio your enemy, they know where to stick the tail.
Don't piss her off.
Don't piss her off.
He's speaking for both of you.
I'm okay.
I don't know.
I filed my tail down.
You too. You have to learn to control the tail. Yeah.
Yeah, I can be pretty feisty, but
Yeah.
not with strangers so much.
So there is a sense of self-destructive tendencies. There is a sense of getting lost in isolation, that inward orientation.
I mean, I get that because we are kind of intense. We are often deep thinkers. And so, for myself personally, I tend to isolate myself because there's so much shit out there. There's so much distraction, and there's so much busyness, and there's so much pulling people outside of themselves that I feel like I need to isolate just to survive, just to cope, because it's like opposite worlds. And so I don't see that as a weakness, I see it as a survival mechanism.
And aloneness might be a very healing and nourishing thing. I'm talking about it when it turns into becoming
like pushing
a shadow area, when
Oh,
you kind of isolate and you don't find a way out anymore. And I'm not only talking about you because you're a Scorpio, I'm talking about what is the energies we have to face the coming months, because Moon is in Scorpio for all of us.
right.
So don't take it too personally,
So, no,
even if of course you will be personally more
that
impacted this month than others might be.
So you're saying like more like a depression kind of thing.
It can go there, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a chart for the coming months. So it was yesterday morning, 9:57 a.m. We had the new moon position of Sun, Moon conjunction, 3 degrees in Scorpio. again, Sun, Moon conjunction, and 2 other planets in Scorpio. So we have a Sagittarius rising, Pluto in the first house. So Uranus in the fourth, Neptune in the third. Neptune in conjunction with Chiron. So I'm going to speak that in plain English in a little while, but these are just the archetypes which are kind of setting the tone for this month. Remember where we started off when I discussed a little bit what was starting for the whole month, and which was really visible for us to see with all the Libra energy in the third house. And so this is what to expect the coming months, till we have the next new moon. So, with 4 planets in Scorpio, there's going to be a lot more intensity on the streets and probably more violence. Because gone is a Libra, nice kind of energy, peaceful and all that. So probably there's going to be really a lot more confrontation. This whole thing, all these planets are in the 11th house. And the 11th house is the house of visions, the house of rebels, the house of like-minded people coming together to reach their goals as a group. So that's what's happening. People coming together. People who want to change the world. People who have idealistic visions of freedom, of independence, of having a world which is based, a society which is based in better values than what we have been living so far. So this is what's going on. This is what is at stake. People coming together. And the Sagittarius rising for this month is a sign of expansion, a sign of fire. So Sagittarius is interested in the bigger picture. Sagittarius wants to find a higher perspective. And Sagittarius has a mission. So we have to find our mission. Something which is worth fighting for. I not only mean it's fighting in the streets, I mean fighting for growing into. Because when we talk about all this, it's really about what can you do personally about it? How can you help this whole process of evolution along? And we all have signed up for that in a way. Okay, the other planets I want to talk about later. So we got a good start here. Before I go into the individual signs and how that will impact you, I would like to take a short break and move around a little bit, so we have a renewed attention span. Thank you.